Good morning. We're just back from a week away in our little camper van. I filmed some little highlights of the trip, which I thought I'd share today for any who are interested. Today I'm just doing a little circular walk I've done before around one house, so I'm not going to really focus on that walk but the trip away. I just want to give a big shout out to Elaine, who gave a very generous donation on Buy Me a Coffee, so thank you, Elaine, and thank you for your kind comments. That is really appreciated and means a lot. When I started this channel, I thought if I can get into the thing where you get paid for adverts, that would cover my production costs, but as it's worked out, that's paying about £60 a year, and you don't need to be a great mathematician to work out that's £5 a month, which doesn't cover shoe leather really. So yeah, Buy Me a Coffee is really helpful to me, and obviously the videos are free and always will be, as well as far as I can make them free. But if you're feeling generous, you are welcome to donate to this old age pensioner on Buy Me a Coffee, and be wonderful. So our week away was very lastminute.com. We hadn't really sort of planned when we were going away, so we just booked a week off. What we booked a week off from, I don't know, but just a week where we didn't have any other appointments. But I generally not keen on going camping this time of year. You're getting into high season, campsites are busy and noisy. I don't really do noise. But anyway, we went away, not really know where we're going. First stop was Mablethorpe. Why would you go to Mablethorpe? A question I asked myself while I was there. So the campsite was lovely, campsite was fine. We don't know Mablethorpe, so we walked to the seafront. We thought, what could go wrong? It's on the coast. But if you like Blackpool and places like that, seedy fairgrounds stuff, donkeys on the beach even, and go to Mablethorpe, but not exactly our cup of tea. However, we had a walk on the beach, and one of the things we wanted to do this last week was kind of get to the coast, a different bit of coast, and walk on the beach. So we did that, and of course we couldn't pass the chip shop, so we had some nice fish and chips. So we tend to do 2 nights in a place, so we did 2 nights there, then we moved up to Robin Hood's Bay, and quite like Robin Hood's Bay. It's very steep. If you've never been, very steep walking down to the bay. So we camped on a farm, but the views are spectacular from the farm campsite. The farm we camped on was in walking distance of the bay, so we walked through out of the farm, or across the farm. So there were a few sheep hiding from the sun because it was a bit of a heat wave. And yeah, it was the start of that heat wave for a few days. And we walked down past the church, met a lady there. I thought she was like the Anglican vicar, but she turns out she's from the Catholic retreat house around the corner. Had a lovely chat. Hadn't been in the church before, so I thought we had a little look in there. And then we began the descent down into Robin Hood's Bay. Been several times before, even when I was a kid. I think we had a caravan holiday near there. I've actually got some dodgy ancestry in Robin Hood's Bay. Yeah, there was a guy on the, when was it, 1874, that number comes to mind. Could be totally wrong. Yeah, he was living with his wife and 2 children down in Robin Hood's Bay on that year's census. But suspiciously, he was also living in somewhere outside Whitby, I think, on the same year's census with his housekeeper and her 2 children. And then the guy who contacted me, who's done a bit of research on this side of my family, said that when he died, the dodgy ancestor, the housekeeper, changed her children's surname to his name. So I think there was a bit of jiggery-pokery going on there. And I guess in the 1800s, you could probably get away with that a bit easier. Because, yeah, people didn't travel as much, did they? Certainly women perhaps didn't travel as much. Anyway, we had a little walk on the beach at the bay with an ice cream. And Mrs. E likes to look for sea glass. So she got busy doing that. It's got a huge seawall at Robin Hood's Bay. Massive, massive seawall. And then we went for another lot of fish and chips on, for me, in the Bay Hotel. And we were remembering when our daughter finished the Coast to Coast, we met her there and had a meal with her at the end of her Coast to Coast walk, which is, I think it's just short of 200 miles from St. Bees Head to Robin Hood's Bay. And after 2 nights at Robin Hood's Bay, we popped into Whitby, had a little wander around Whitby, if you like, goth and steampunk and all that. There's a lot of people into that there, and we normally would come down one side into Whitby Bay and up the other side, up all the steps to the Abbey. Just got to be careful of energy levels, so we didn't go up the steps to the Abbey. And we moved up to Sea Houses, to a little campsite at Beadnell Bay, just about 2 miles from Sea Houses. And that's when the rain came, the heat wave. Well, the heat wave didn't particularly stop, but torrential rain came all through the night. And yeah, it was a bit wet. In the morning it stopped, so we decided to walk along the beach to Sea Houses. That was quite a pleasant walk. And it was threatening rain all the time, but on the way there it didn't rain. Had a little wander around, took lunch there. Can you guess what I had for lunch? In this week of fish and chips? Yes, you're right. Another lot of fish and chips. And then we decided to walk back, and as we started walking back, it began to rain. So we had a dry walk there and a wet walk back. But that's alright, a bit of rain. Not too bothered about that. In fact, I can do the rain better than this that we've got today, this sort of heat wave stuff. It's not good for me. My little pale Irish jeans. I'm not talking about my clothing. Following morning we left Beadnell Bay and headed north, I think, up to Bamborough Castle. Spectacular castle. We stayed there a few years back in February, had the place to ourselves. It was wonderful, and we tended to go when it's out of season, and it was a little bit busier this time of year, but the castle's still spectacular. I had a little wander on the beach, but yeah, a little bit too busy for us, so we grabbed some lunch and headed over to Yorkshire, and we arrived at the village of Hawes in Yorkshire. And if you know that part of the country, you may be aware that Hawes is where they filmed most of the James Herriot series, I think, is based there. Hawes is a little town, Yorkshire town, surrounded by sheep fields, and it's got quite an impressive river running through the middle of the town, including a little waterfall. But we definitely wanted to do a bit more walking on our last sort of day on the trip. So we were in the pub the first night, and we had a little look online, walked around Hawes, and we discovered that Hard Draw Force was only 2.5 miles away. So we decided on our final full day to walk across the fields, which I think is a bit of the Pennine Way, over to Hard Draw Force. And yeah, that was spectacular, lovely walk. And it was threatening rain, but it didn't really rain. If you don't know Hard Draw Force, it's the longest single drop waterfall in England. But the other unusual thing about it, it's in the grounds of a pub. And they used to charge a few pennies to go and see it, and now it's £4. But I would say the grounds behind the pub are quite spectacular. And even though we're sort of coming into high season, there's only a couple of other people there. And what an excellent place. I'd been before with the eldest daughter and our grandson some years ago, and Mrs. E had not been before. And so we sat by the waterfall and had a little packed lunch. Very nice. And behind the pub, where you go into the waterfall area, they've got a little visitor centre. Very quirky. It's like you're sitting in a junk shop, really, or antique shop, I should say. But yeah, lots of different old sofas and different artefacts. But had a wonderful coffee and cake. I think I had a millionaire shortbread or something. And yeah, lovely. So that was our little week on the road in our campervan, just exploring the northeast coast. So thank you again to Elaine for your very generous Buy Me a Coffee donation. It's very much appreciated. And as I said, if you'd like to support this old age pensioner wandering around with a camera on a stick, do feel free to use Buy Me a Coffee. But other than that, I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.